From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Welcome back on this Monday. Confusion reigns over enforcement of the state's new mask-wearing directive. Coming up, what the Gallatin County Sheriff says about law officers backing up the governor's order. And the political race is on, for money that is, coming up, where candidates now stand in the big race for dollars in Montana's close Senate and House contests this fall. Right at 6:30 now on this Monday. Chet Lehman, Matt Elwell with you here. Caitlin Corbett is off.
Yep.
Good day to be off. She picked a good one.
She did. Not one cup of coffee this morning for me.
What?
Nothing yet. The reason why, man, it is beautiful outside.
It is lovely outside. Really
that
is.
doesn't wake you up, I don't know what does. Temperatures right now into the 40s. Well, coffee.
Yeah.
Obviously. A little bit of passing cloud cover making for a beautiful sunrise. This is shot off our Bozeman iCam. Temperatures right around the 80-degree mark for the mid-afternoon. There's a beautiful shot right there.
Yep.
Off our Butte iCam there, Community Hospital of Anaconda iCam. Temperatures are going to be fabulous today. It's going to be a hot one later this week with a chance of thunder showers. We got a little bit of everything.
Wow.
Weatherman's dream right there. No snow.
Thankfully.
No. Yes, that is the weatherman's dream. We'll talk more about your complete forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, we'll live that dream with you in a moment. Meantime, almost 31. Here's the latest numbers of confirmed cases of coronavirus in the state of Montana as updated yesterday. Gallatin County now has a total of 561 cases. 121 of those are active. 18 new cases reported yesterday. Yellowstone County now reporting 472 cases with 20 new. Silver Bow County, 3 new cases, bringing their total to 30. Currently 47 people in the state of Montana are in the hospital. 1,266 have recovered and 37 people have died from COVID-19 in Montana. Now, last week, the Montana Sheriff and Peace Officers Association released an editorial opinion in response to Governor Bullock's directive requiring face masks in certain indoor situations. Now, the statement signed by numerous sheriffs from across the state claims the directive is not a mandate for law enforcement to issue citations or to arrest violators. Gallatin County Sheriff Brian Goodkin helped draft that editorial and says not issuing citations doesn't mean law enforcement isn't enforcing the directive.
If you ever got pulled over for speeding and somebody gave you a warning, we're still enforcing the speed law. So if we have a complaint about masks in a business or someplace else and we go and we visit with those folks, we're enforcing the law. We're just not writing citations or taking people to jail. So I wanted to make sure that people understood the difference.
Now, Gallatin County, Madison, Beaverhead, Butte, Silver Bow, Broadwater, and Park County, all on that list of sheriffs who signed that editorial. You can read that full editorial by visiting our websites. Now, Montana Governor Steve Bullock showing himself to be a fundraising machine in his challenge of U.S. Senator Steve Daines. But Senator Daines no slouch either when it comes to raising campaign cash. Montana's U.S. House race, Democrat Kathleen Williams continues to hold the fundraising lead over Republican Matt Rosendale. Senator Daines reported this week that he raised $5 million in the past 3 months. That pushes his overall re-election campaign total to almost $13 million, and he had $7.1 million left to spend as of July 1st. Governor Bullock raised $7.7 million during that same period, had $7.4 million left to spend at the start of this month. In the House race, Williams raised $2.4 million so far, had about $1.6 in the bank as of 2 weeks ago. Matt Rosendale's campaign racked up $1.9 million in fundraising so far and had $1.2 million left to spend as of July 1st. Recent polling has shown that both races are expected to be close. Now, in Roosevelt County, Montana, residents are outraged after a deadly train crash in May. They say officials aren't taking the area seriously, even after 3 deaths in 9 months. MTN Investigates' Keely Van Middendorp picks up the story.
That's right. The May 29th accident report has yet to be published. Federal regulations say a report must be submitted to the Federal Railroad Administration by a certain date. Now, that deadline is now up. MTN Investigates continues to wait for those details. In the meantime, I talked with Culbertson residents who are left feeling frustrated after May's tragedy. They're still reeling from another deadly accident that claimed the lives of 2 young men last August.
We begin in northeastern Montana, where one man is dead following a collision with a train this morning.
Culbertson residents say they're reliving their worst nightmare after news of another death at a railroad crossing in May.
When we heard about this, it was just devastating to think now someone else.
man operating a John Deere sprayer tractor at a crossing with no crossing arms was killed in the collision with the westbound train with 10 cars.
The 65-year-old Sydney farmer, later identified as Rocky Norby, was the third person to die at that intersection in 9 months.
They were such huge-hearted boys.
18-year-old Brian Peterson and 21-year-old Caleb Fell both lost their lives at the crossing last August.
Brian was one of your down-home boys. He wanted to go to trade school and come back and open a mechanic shop here. And Caleb, the same way, had aspirations of going into music.
I always sent out two-man crews because, so one guy wouldn't get tired. You could switch drivers.
Lacqua says what started out as a shorter shift for the two young men August 17th, 2019, turned into a tragedy that continues to haunt him.
I mean, it was devastating, that's a call you don't want to get.
MTN Investigates requested footage from the August crash from BNSF and the crash report from the Montana Highway Patrol. Officials denied both inquiries. We were able to speak with the MHP trooper who saw footage of the deadly collision.
It started to slow right before the tracks and then just kept going onto the tracks in front of the train.
Lacqua believes Brian and Caleb would still be alive today had they known a train was just moments away from crossing.
If there was arms or a blinking light, nobody would have died here.
Our hearts are just broken. You just still can't imagine they're not here.
Trooper Moon said his investigation found geography was not a factor in the August crash, but things like dirt on the truck's window and objects inside were.
The front passenger was blocking some view from that direction.
Railroad safety expert Bob Comer has spent over 30 years investigating accidents around the country. He believes things like the area's landscape did contribute to the tragic outcome.
I think that the terrain was a factor in the crash. The speed of the train was a factor.
Now, safety officials say it's not just one, but a combination of several things that makes this intersection so dangerous. Those being a single-lane, downward-sloping bridge and a wide curve in the railroad track that creates a perfect storm for those hauling heavy equipment.
We all pray that they didn't see it coming.
The most recent collision in May marks 4 deadly crashes at the crossing since 1984, with numerous injuries reported in several of those tragedies. Lacqua says safety improvements like crossing arms are long overdue.
After you have a fatality, that should maybe automatically initiate something like that. Definitely after 3. Hopefully now after 4.
Mackert says Brian and Caleb's families want that spot taken seriously by state officials.
Once everybody sees work actually being done, I think it's going to bring a lot to this community.
Roosevelt County Commissioner Gordon Oakers says they've been saving up for a solution.
It all takes a lot of time to do this.
They're using 2 years' worth of gas tax funds to replace the bridge and widen the road leading to the crossing. The county upgrades will cost $200,000. Railroad crossing improvements will then cost another $280,000.
Prioritize those projects where the greatest safety improvement can occur first.
Preep says the state of Montana receives $3 million each year to improve things like public railroad crossings.
There are strings attached to the money, so we do have to be thoughtful about the decision-making process.
A safety study will take place this or next month. BNSF, state, and county officials will look at a number of variables like vehicle volume and road geometry.
And we also take into account if there are crashes at that crossing.
Get whatever safety equipment they would like to have at this done as safely and efficiently as possible.
The conversation will determine where the crossing upgrade falls on the state's priority list. Oakers told MTN Investigates they are hoping to get the upgrades in a year or more.
It seems like you're not doing anything, but we're trying to work on it as we go.
Lacqua says the communities of Culbertson and Bainville simply don't have the time to sit and wait.
Anger, frustration, there's a good chance that somebody else is going to die here within that next year.
While major upgrades are months off, MTN Investigates asked state, county, and railroad officials what could be done now to make the area safer for drivers, like installing signage.
But I will for sure look at this in more detail with my rail highway staff member.
We found no clear answer from officials about any immediate improvements.
That is BNSF right away. We don't have the authority to put a stop sign on there.
But after MTN Investigates started making calls, BNSF officials informed Olkers they would be installing yield signs.
So there will be some new signage from BNSF.
We found the area would qualify for stop signs on both sides of the tracks under Montana law.
Was there any discussion of putting in a stop sign before that?
No.
It's unclear whether or not railroad and county officials will consider the change per MTN Investigates request.
All you have to do is drill 2 holes and put the 2 wood screws in there. What's it going to take? 5 minutes? A sign?
Something needs to be done.
Community members say they mourn the lives taken too soon on the tracks as they are left to wait for any change.
When things first happened, both moms had said if we could just prevent anyone else from dying on these tracks so that they didn't die in vain. We can't bring our boys back, but that would be something that we could find some peace in.
Now, there is no installation date set for the signage, and we are awaiting responses from Roosevelt County commissioners. We, of course, have more on this story on our website. Back to you.
6:40 now. What an interesting story there for our Montana investigators. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the biggest debate over the next coronavirus stimulus package, not between Democrats and Republicans, it's between Republicans and the White House, where the differences are coming up. But first, here's a look at what's coming up at 7 o'clock on CBS this morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS this morning, we'll have the latest on the coronavirus crisis as the death toll in the U.S. passes 140,000. And we're also in Portland after a violent weekend between demonstrators and federal agents had the mayor there calling for federal officers to leave the city immediately. We also talk exclusively with former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton about the life and legacy of John Lewis. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi joins that conversation on Lewis's 30-plus years in Congress. Also, hear the important message the civil rights icon wrote to himself about getting into good trouble. This from a note to his younger self from CBS This Morning 3 years ago. We'll see you at 7.